expert advice in, moving forward. Because this group is, I don't know how much Tamara shared with you about No Man, but this is a group of zany women. They are 40 and over, and we really just have a good time. We laugh a lot. We share a lot of jokes, some a little risque and some even more risque, but we have a really, really good time in this group. But we've decided to extract different situations that we're facing as women over 40, and everything um, from parenting, grandparenting, work, sex life. I'm sorry, ladies, and my child obviously she just popped in and now she's she's in the way, but but we want to talk about a variety of different subjects, and this is one of them. So the COVID thing is a national or international issue that we're all faced with, and we're dealing with it in so many different ways, but we want to have some tools that will better equip us once we just equip us in our everyday life. So tell us a little bit about you.
I just had to get it because
Okay,
I
so
recorded
I
it.
am a licensed
That way I
professional
don't have to be
counselor.
live.
I've been counseling now for
It's called Wind
I don't
Down
even know
Wednesday.
how many years.
Uh huh.
8, 9, something like that. I changed professions and decided to go back to my
Oh
first
my
love,
gosh.
which was counseling.
They're
So
hilarious.
I think it's been about 8 years. I'm in that 40 plus club. And so I all the things that you said, I'm like, yep, check that. And so because I even went back to school late to pursue this career because I've always been passionate about helping and supporting people. And but I'll be honest, I'll be very transparent. I was chasing money. So I shifted because one, being a counselor, everyone's like, oh, you don't make a lot of money. And so I started chasing money. So I started doing things that I thought would help me get money, only to discover that chasing money runs out at times, and it gets to a point where you hit a dead end. But when you chase your passion, money chases you.
Right.
So I learned that, of course, a little late in life, but I did learn it. And so I started chasing my passion, which was counseling. And now money chases me. And so I'm grateful for that. But yeah, I've been counseling families, children, married couples or couples, the individuals, doesn't matter, diagnosing. So I've been doing all of that for a few years now.
Okay, well that's great, and you have such a baby face. So you keep saying late in life, and we're all looking like, what was that, 30? That's late for you, huh? Anyway, Nzinga, that face of yours does not look late in life at all. It's a pretty baby face, so you're one of the lucky ones. So I wanted to make this one great thing about No Ma'am is that, as I said, we have a lot of fun, but we've created an environment where it's a relaxed environment, and we engage each other in a way that we're very comfortable. So we have a group of, it's over 3,000 of us collectively, and the goal is to get bigger. But we have something special here where the ladies, they're connecting as if they know each other, and they know each other, but they don't know each other, but they do know each other. So I like keeping it in a way that we're comfortable. So some of the things that I've faced with this COVID thing is working. So I have a day job, and my day job, I'm a hospice marketer. So I have to go out. I have to interact with folks. I have to engage people. And I don't, not many of us have the luxury of being able to just be secluded. Some of us do, but many of us don't. So even before we talk about the holiday thing, it's just everyday life, getting up, getting out, masking up, trying to stay cognitive of touching, doors, closing, breathing, just the whole works. And it can get overwhelming because we got to, I'm a mom and I'm married. And so I got to go out and come back in. And sometimes I get a little lax about, I was out in these environments, which include clinical environments. So I could be in a doctor's office where there's a bunch of sick folks. I'm in an assisted living where there are senior folks. So I'm in places where people are compromised. And that is concerning when I come back home. So talk to us about just our everyday engagement in this environment and, kind of, marching along, even though sometimes we feel like just not.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I like to just start with and tell people, like, we all are likely feeling the exact same thing. Anxiety is through the roof for many of us. And one of the first steps is just owning that. Owning that this is something we have never done before. We've never experienced before. We don't know the right, the wrong, the up, the down, who to believe, what not to believe. And so starting with that, like owning what your emotions are. So if it's anxiety, owning that it's anxiety. Because once I can own that, then I can start combating that. And it doesn't mean that I'm gonna get rid of it. I am a clinical therapist and I still have anxiety. Literally today, coming home from the office, I stopped at the grocery store and I was like, okay, let me get my wipes. Let me make sure I wipe the blanket. But I'm touching stuff and I put this back and I'm not gonna be okay because I grabbed this and so it really is no right or wrong way to do this. We know we have to move. We know we have to live. We have to work. We have to do things. And so owning your feelings first is very important, because when I own them, then I'm conscious that, okay, you know what, if my stress or anxiety is high, I may make poor choices. So let me get in the space of owning, okay, this is high. So what can I do first to maybe calm myself to go and do? And then maybe if I have to go and do, what is my routine in the car? Like I've started doing meditative apps. So I'm listening to certain, I can't do the ones where I have to close my eyes, but just this calming music to soothe me. I go to sleep to rain, because I'm like, what you're not going to do is mess with my sleep and my rising. So, because you can have in between. Let me figure out how to sleep well and how to wake up well. Because all this other stuff in between, we don't really have any control over. We have control over, of course, what we do. But yeah, I would say just owning what your feelings are in that moment. And then we can start figuring out what kind of things we can do to combat those, not to rid us of them, because we're still going to be anxious. We're still going to be overwhelmed. We still going to, but we may not be as anxious, as overwhelmed. So yeah.
Right. Having a little bit more say so in that experience versus none whatsoever. And I love that. I like that you say acknowledge it, because in this climate we're in, we're being told one day it's no big deal. The next day, somebody, daddy died from it. So, we're constantly juggling all of this. So yeah, I'm with you. Because like, as I said, many of us have to go to work, and, which means for a lot of us outside of our four walls that, we live in, and that's concerning. And then with our children, the whole, I have a 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. And so the whole sending them back to school or not, and making those decisions. And, well, mine are still home, but I have no judgment for those that have decided to send theirs. Because Lord knows, girl, when I start adding us and thus to the end of my words, I'm ready for these little helpers to go back, But, my husband and I have decided that, they're going to be here for a minute. So until we're, more than comfortable. But, it's concerning when, just trying to figure out what to do. So owning our emotions and not feeling guilty for whatever decisions we make for our personal lives, I think that's really important, because, we do have the pressure of what someone is saying we should be doing or not be doing. And I think for us individually, we have to make our decisions based on our experiences and what we have set forth for our own families and ourselves. So that leads me to here comes Thanksgiving. And we can't even get well Halloween, okay, but that's just that's just the time to eat. But okay, some of us maybe really because I have one girlfriend. She is if she's watching, I won't call her name Melissa. She decorates forever. She is that one. She decorates all the time. But what are we gonna do? Here comes Thanksgiving. Are we supposed to have it, 20-person folk over and all of that, or are we to scale it down, or what are we? Do we even want to go?
So that's another thing I think, we have to decide for ourselves what's important. Even like you said, even with the school, it's like, I'm always saying this. I know where I've been. I don't know where anybody else has been. And so this is a time though, because like my family is really close and we spend Thanksgiving and we're still trying to figure out what that's going to look like. But I'm looking at COVID as an opportunity for us to create new traditions.
That's a great way of
Who says that we have to be, don't get me wrong, it would be great to be 30, 40 plus of us in a house. But, the fact of the matter is, like, my parents are aging, they're grandparents. And so I may have to sacrifice what I love to make sure they're okay. Because while I know where I've been, I don't know where cousin so-and-so or
right.
niece so-and-so or little, So those are the things. So we're thinking about we've been creating new traditions. I was talking to a group today and the lady said that they decided that they're going to take a picture. Everyone takes a picture of their food. They have a family Facebook group. We're going to vote for who has the best looking food. So it's a way to feel together.
Right.
We talked about just Zooming each other and, eating out while we're Zoom and, call it a day. But, it's really up to the individuals. I've seen families who've been getting together for parties. We've done a lot of drive, by parties and gatherings. So it's really up to the individual and the families. I don't think there's a right or a wrong because it's a struggle. I know some people who just held on to their faith, like, I'm just going to trust, I'm going to be all right, and I'm going to go and have fun. And I'm like, fine, if that's where you are, go and have fun. I'm one of the people who like to stay in my house. I don't have to go. But I like to stay. That's just where I am.
Right.
I think about my parents more than anything. And it's really that, because I like to visit my parents. I don't want to feel like I can't go because I've been all these, other places. So I think it's time to just, build new traditions, start new tradition. Who said
I love that. And I do, and I think we should be, you brought up a good point about being just responsible, because once I expose myself to, as I mentioned, my work life, or, when it's time for Thanksgiving to roll around and I'm working, then, I lost my mother this year. So she passed in April. So my dad died years ago. So this is going to be the first year, literally, I think I've only spent one Thanksgiving. I'm 53. So I think I've only spent one Thanksgiving prior to my mother's death without her or being at home. So this is, something different for me, one. And then I understand with your parents, still fortunately with you, you don't want to just, I hate to use the word irresponsible, but, when people have underlying conditions and things that you may not even be aware of, it's just really wise to be as cautious as possible. So I think it's really necessary to just think beyond your reach, yourself, when, the holidays do come up. And I love the new traditions. Because we were talking about, my husband and I were talking about, what are we going to do this year for Thanksgiving? And I was like, with my mom not being here anymore, that's what we always did. So this was going to be, moving into a time when we spent more time with his family. But, with COVID, I'm like, baby, I don't really think we should impose in terms, because some folks don't know how to say no. Or we're not really comfortable, and then we all sitting there, looking looking at folks like pass this with a glove, or So I thought that maybe this year we just hang out at home. That way, if people are uncomfortable saying don't come, they won't be made to feel uncomfortable. But I do think it's the new traditions. I like that, to take pictures of the food and maybe the Zooms, or just a lot of unique things that hopefully, maybe we in No Ma'am can come up with some new ways to celebrate or create new traditions. I think that's great. And then of course, here comes Christmas. The same, I guess you would say, some of the same things.
Mm-hmm. Just and because we've just been, conditioned to do it this way. But
right.
In history, every 100 years or so, there is a shift, and none of us have lived through the shift. Mm-hmm. So we're in this pandemonium, like, okay, what do we do? How do we do? But we've always seemed to figure things out as a people. Mm-hmm. As a culture, we've always seemed to figure it out. So I'm like, let's create something. Let's turn that creative hat on and come up with something. Because even as, Black folks, we've always been able to, we take the scraps and make a meal, right? Like, that's just been who we are, period. So when you think about that, why is this any different? And I think what it is, because we didn't live that. We are the result of what our great-grandparents did and went through. And so now we're the change agents. And if we look at that, like, we're the ones now, it's on our doorstep. What do we do now? I will even say that my family is probably more close now than we were before this. Right. And we see each other way less.
Yeah. We take each other. We took each other for granted in some capacity, and now this is created. As you said, the new normal. Now, we may not. It's unfortunate, but so much is happening that we do have to figure out, be more appreciative of who we have and while we have them. And I think because COVID just forces us to think differently about this stuff. So I don't want to be in a position where, because initially I was like everybody else. We went out and we had 100 rolls of toilet paper, 300 rolls of paper towels. So we had it all, and then it started dwindling and I would go and replenish. And now I'm like, it's there. I don't feel so anxious anymore. And I'm thankful for that, because that was a doozy, the whole introduction to this COVID thing. So, I do agree that, creating new normals, and even if you decide to have these events there, would you share with us some behaviors that you can implement to lessen the chance of spreading this?
So I've gone to a couple, probably 2 events, but I felt comfortable the way it was set up. So, I know with the weather, you're just not really sure what it's going to be like, but if you can be outside, setting up social distance, the way you set up the tables, really physical distance, because we're social beings. So physically distancing, how you set up the table. Maybe have, every other person use multiple rooms if you can. I know a lot of times families used to eating together, but if not people in the same home, if you are mixing company, then consider using multiple rooms, and then practice just safe hygiene, washing your hands the moment you walk in the door. You even talked about at my parents' house, putting like a hand sanitizing station like right at the garage. As soon as you come in, sanitize your hands. When you can get to a restroom, wash your hands. But certain things where, I've seen even certain stores, when you get there, I went to a store the other day, you have to call to let them know you're outside.
Right.
You come to the door and then they wash your hands and then you can come in. So at least I know my hands walking in this building have not been contaminated.
Right.
So little things like that, maybe, setting up stations at your home, setting up how you, even place your seating, play a game with it, musical chairs, assign, give everybody a number and put numbers in certain spaces, because it also can mix and mingle generations if people get together. Because often what do you have? One generation is in one room or at one area of the table. another generation is at another. Here again, it's going back to creating new traditions. If we mix it up, if everyone gets a number when they walk in, we've already set where the, put the placements. You may force grandmother to sit with, niece or to, and here we are creating new traditions and building the foundation of the family by mingling the generations.
Right. Yeah. And one more thing to add to that, you may get one of those thermometers, so that right off the bat before, because that's one thing that happens, and not all, but many of the doctor's offices that I frequent, they are checking your temperature. And even in our office, I work for the hospice that I work for. When we walk in, we have to check temperatures, and we have a sanitizer right at the door. So we have to document the temperature. So another situation, I was out at a company, and they also check your temperature, but I was standing outside in the sun. So I wasn't thinking. So when I walk in, she's like, "Oh, you're a little high." And the first thing I'm thinking, like, "Wait a minute, high?" And then I was in the sun. So, and then a few minutes later, my temperature regulated. But I think those are just my if I'm not the therapist or anything, but I think the whole thing that we should walk away with is just being respectful and courteous and thoughtful of our family and and our fellow man, if you want to say it like that, because that's what we're hoping people will be with us, and just practicing as much safety as possible, because it's hard not to engage or to get out, go outside. And who wants to be stuck up, in the house all day? So we have to learn how to create a new normal, because I really think this is our new normal for a while.
Yeah, I think this is the shift. Things are going to be different from this point on. There may be some things that are familiar that we've done that we'll still do, but we are creating what is our new, because even with the vaccination, there's still this concern for its spread, like vaccination. And, even when I think about the flu, I was talking about it the other day, the flu shot doesn't guarantee you don't get the flu.
No, it doesn't.
So I can't imagine that once they have to, and I would want several trials and errors before I even try to get it.
You're not alone. You're not alone. So that's another Zoom. Yeah.
So I would imagine that this is our new way of living. This is our different way of living. Things are going to be, way more, driven by electronics, by, Zoom meetings and, whatever the different platforms are for meeting and for engaging and for talking, that this is probably
good. Yeah, we use a Docusign. Are you familiar with that? Yeah, we use that because in engaging family members, many of us, from the hospice perspective, they don't want us in their homes doing paperwork. So Docusign, I'm sure their stock has gone out the roof, because we can just electronically send them the same documents that we be sitting with them and have them complete them, send them back, and it's good. So, really, I guess, and also just going back to the holiday thing, the gratitude and being, thankful that, we do hopefully get to see another year. It may be a little different than last year, but, when our cousin Ray and Buki were fighting anyway, right? So this year, no fighting, I'm used to the family reunions and get together. Somebody always mad about something. So this year, we can, although that's always fun to me, to chuckle about that nonsense. But so this year it will be different for more than a few reasons. But it can be good different. It doesn't have to be so bad. It's how you look at things. So I think this was good. I enjoyed talking to you, and it was we're gonna keep you around. So we'll tap you for some other things because there's so many more subjects we could engage you with. Now, where are you physically? Where do you live? Are you in Georgia?
I'm in Georgia. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you have an independent practice, right?
So I have a full-time job and private practice. So you can imagine how my days are.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I do.
Okay, and so what we'll do is share your information because the bulk of the ladies in No Man, they are in Atlanta Metro.
Okay.
So, and I think I'm a strong advocate of therapy. I think it's so beneficial, and I think not that it has to be accepting, but I think people are more open to it now. You know, it used to be only crazy people. You know, that's so foolish. But you know, I'm crazy because I have engaged in with therapy and therapists, and I just think it's so beneficial to have that type of engagement and interaction with someone that's clinical but also normal. So so we look forward to, and tell us your name again, the name of your practice, and if you have a website. Do you have a website?
No, I don't.
Not yet. Not yet.
I've been working on one for like a year.
A year? Oh, well, we have some resources in this group.
I'm not good at it. I couldn't. So even the logo, like I hired 2 people for a logo. Don't really like the logo they created. And I've been literally in LLC for probably 3 years now, 3 or 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't been satisfied. Nothing sticks out. But you can reach me. My name is Nazinga Benton. I am a licensed professional therapist. I do have Instagram, Facebook. So ironically, a lot of people reach me through my Instagram, my Facebook, and they're just my name.
That's great. So, but you know what? Because let me just give you one word of advice. Sometimes you got to pull the trigger. Because I'm one too. I can get really particular about, and meanwhile, a week, 2 weeks, a month, and it can always be massaged differently. There's a picture out there of Jeff Bezos. He has a little hair on the side. He's in a beat up office, and he's just pushing through. And now you see him, and he's Jeff Bezos, so he started. He didn't get caught up in the weeds. He kept it moving, and look at where we are with Amazon. So